And thank you for calling in for today's Contractor Business Accelerator webinar. This is Rich Harshaw, and I want to thank you for being here with me today. Oops. Okay. I have muted out the wrong line. Okay, here we are. Let's go ahead and get rolling here. This is an interesting topic that's been something I've talked about off and on for years and years and years, but I wanted to bring it into a little bit more focus today, since we do have a large percentage of our audience is in the remodeling contracting world. Not all of you, and if you are joining us on this call today and you're not a remodeler, that's okay, because the topics that we're going to cover today are germane really to any kind of a business, but I do want to cover this in the context of the remodeling crowd. So we're going to talk about the need for speed, and we're specifically going to talk about lead handling and making sure that you understand the ramifications of what's going on here. We've got this common thread throughout all marketing requests that's been going on for years, which is we just need more leads, we need more leads, we need more leads. And the reality is, while more leads would be nice and certainly would be helpful for pretty much anybody's business, there's a lot that's not being done properly with just handling the lead flow that you already have, handling the web traffic that you already have, and making sure that everything converts. So this is about being more efficient, being more on top of things, giving more attention to certain areas of your business than perhaps you currently are. I remember working, this goes back to about 2005, 6, 7, that era. I was working with a company that was experiencing growing pains in the home improvement business. It was a sunroom company that primarily sold windows and sunrooms through Four Seasons Sunrooms. A very large dealer. They were getting up in the $8, $9, $10 million range, but they didn't have systems in place. They had the same systems in place for handling leads and dealing with customers that they had when they were a $2 million company, and it just wasn't working anymore. They had a guy named William who was responsible for answering the phone, and he had to make a decision on what was going to happen with that lead, and we found out very quickly it just was not happening. It wasn't very good. If the person called in was anxious and eager to set an appointment right there on the spot, he could get the appointment set. They would get a salesperson assigned. They would get the salesperson out, and they would go make the sale. If any little thing was not exactly smoothly greased, so to speak, they wouldn't set the lead. They wouldn't capture. It was just a disaster. They weren't capturing information into Market Sharp. They were using that for lead capturing and flowing customers through their database, and it just wasn't happening. And it was something that I looked at, and I gave the owner advice on multiple occasions. This has got to be brought under control. You're losing, in my estimation at that time, probably half of the business that they could be getting. So in other words, they're doing $8, $9 million in sales when in fact they could or should be doing double that if they could just get a handle on these systems. So I want you to just think about this stuff. I'm going to give you some data, give you some statistics today, give you some information that's going to make you kind of scratch your head and go, oh crap, man, we got to get this under control. Because the reality is probably, very likely, some of the same things are causing you problems as well. So let's start off with a discussion about the internet and the trend in internet marketing. And I know that everybody's familiar with the idea that internet marketing is important and internet marketing is a big deal, but I want you to take a look at how it's changed over the last, say, 10 years or so, because it really is different, and it's affecting lots of different aspects of your business. It's affecting how you handle leads. It's also affecting your advertising. So let's just go through a quick recap of what's happened in the last 10 years. So about, gosh, when did the internet really start coming on board where people actually had, you know, computers and internet? Probably in the late 1990s, probably like 97 is when people started getting email, and that's back when AOL was sending you 150 CD-ROMs per week into your mailbox and all that stuff. And you had this old beige PC with the big monitor. Remember that? And people had internet, and they used internet for, you know, lots of different things, but not nearly the number of applications that there are now. And it was just a whole different world back then, even though it existed. And I want you to think about this in terms of how people would research home improvement. You say, what are you talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is if somebody got an idea back in those days that maybe they wanted to remodel their kitchen or maybe they needed new windows, what would they do? Would they go straight to the internet and start to look it up? And the answer is, yeah, sometimes. But for the most part, the answer really was not so much. And the reason was because you had to go over to the desktop, you had to dial up, you had to wait for the connection. The connections were slow. And I know there's somebody out there saying, no, I had a T1 coming into my house in 1998. And maybe you did, but you were not the rule, you were the exception. And it was just a little bit more of a challenge just to connect and to have a decent speed and just to have access to a computer, because you had it entailed getting up off the couch, going over to the desktop, or maybe going to work where you had the desktop and taking a look at that. Remember back in those days, cell phones were kind of a big deal still. I remember the early days of my business when I had a cell phone and my business partner did not, and I had a certain number of minutes each month. It was like 400 minutes, and over that it cost $400,000 per minute. And it was just kind of a big deal. I don't think my wife ended up getting a cell phone until, I don't know, I can't remember, but, 2002, 3, something like that, maybe 2000, 2001. But there was this era before 2000 where things were a little bit more archaic. Here's why I'm telling you this. Because in those days, a couple of things. Number one, people weren't really using the internet to research and find solutions for home improvement. I'm not saying it didn't exist. I'm not saying nobody used it. I'm saying it was far less prevalent. Then we got into an era of laptops, and people started having a laptop available. They could theoretically sit there on their sofa with their laptop and look at stuff. And some people do and did, and it was more convenient certainly than the big desktop computer. And internet connections started to speed up a little bit. But then we hit some critical mass about 3, 4, 5 years ago, and we started getting into this era of tablets, mini tablets, and smartphones, where the internet became very, very available. Now, we're going to talk about a couple of things here. I'm going to talk about how this has affected advertising. That's sort of a side topic. It's on my mind lately, and I want you to understand it. But also, I want you to understand this issue of speed and contacts and getting in touch with people. And I want you to see how things have changed in the last 5 years. We had this recession that hit in 2007, 2008. Some people bottomed out in 2009. We're about, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on when you bottomed out past that. And this shift in internet technology has coincided with that. Okay, I think the first iPads came out about three years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago. Smartphones, the iPhone has been out since I think about 2007. And here's what happens now. Now when anybody gets any kind of an inkling of an idea that they want to look up or think about or find out information or research anything, they have instant access and availability. And in fact, they would probably rather look something up instead of, not knowing. And this is what I call the Kevin Bacon syndrome. Okay, so here's what we've got. Over here we've got Kevin Bacon. This is from Footloose, if you remember. Probably you ladies out there remember, because he was, this young hunky guy. I don't see how that's really that hunky. He's on the screen there. But then we've got, here's what happened. We were watching TV the other day, and Kevin Bacon's got this new TV show called The Following, and I saw this picture of him. And this is a picture from The Following, and my thought was, golly, Kevin Bacon's looking a little worn out around the edges. He's not looking so young anymore. Now, that shouldn't be surprising to anybody. But here's what I want you to know, and here's an interesting thing. If it was 10 years ago and you saw Kevin Bacon on TV and you thought, wow, I wonder, how old Kevin Bacon is, you probably would not ever find out. Because to find out, you'd have to get up, you'd have to go over to that big desktop computer, and you'd have to type junk in, and you'd have to try to figure it out. And maybe there was a source available, maybe there wasn't. Now, we've got this thing called Siri, and here's how it works. Let me give you a little clue. Watch this. I'm going to push the button. When is Kevin Bacon's birthday?
Let me check that. Here's what I found.
All right, here's what Siri found for me. Kevin Bacon, date of birth, Tuesday, July 8th, 1958. He's 54 years, 6 months, 16 days old. He was born 2,846 weeks ago, 19,924 days ago, 54.55 years ago. In 1958, he was born on the 189th day of the 28th week. I could furthermore, if I wanted to, I could say Kevin Bacon movies.
I'm looking for movies. I found quite a number of movies with Kevin Bacon.
Okay, and here are 25 movies with Kevin Bacon, starting with the upcoming R.I.P.D., Crazy Stupid Love, which he was pretty funny in that, X-Men, Super, Roadkill, New York, I Love You, Me and Only Me, blah, blah, blah. And then I can click on any of these movies. I can see what Rotten Tomatoes thought of it. I can buy it. I can rent it, all of these different things. Here's the point. The point isn't about Kevin Bacon. You know that. The point is this. It's called instant access to information. Now, I want you to understand why I'm talking about this. Two reasons. First reason is this. This is dramatically affecting your advertising results, because now, instead of waiting around to happen to hear your radio ad or see you in the newspaper or find you in their mailbox, when people get the inkling of an idea that they want to remodel their kitchen or replace their windows or whatever it is you happen to sell, now they are more likely than ever to take immediate action. So I might do this. Replacement windows, Southlake, Texas.
I couldn't find any doors and windows suppliers.
Oh, it asks if I want to search the web. I hit search the web.
Web for replacement windows, Southlake, Texas.
Okay, and here they all come. Oh, look, $179. Hey, they're one of our customers. How you doing? That's not even what you do anymore, but you came up, so that's good. Window World, Watson Windows, Statewide Remodeling, the Home Depot, Champion Windows, Grand Openings, Apple Glass and Mirror, Window World. By the way, I'm glad to see that Window Expo DFW came up first in the ads. That was fortuitous. Anyway, here's the idea. You get the idea. Now, let's take this to the next step. So let's review what step one was. Step one, or point one, thing that I want you to know, number one, is that this Kevin Bacon syndrome has led people to instantly look for research and find out information. It allows them to scratch the itch. It allows us to scratch the itch. Instead of just wondering how old Kevin Bacon is, I can know down to the number of days, 19,992 days. That's how old it is. He's coming up on his 20,000th day. But also for anything that they might want that you sell. Now, so that's point number one. Here's point number two. Point number two is that now this lead that will come in, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to look. I'm literally right now looking on my phone, and I could easily pick up my iPad, which is sitting right here next to my phone, and I'm sitting right in front of my laptop. But I'm not going to look it up on my laptop. I got my phone here, and I see replacement windows, Window Depot, Window World. And there's a little button here where I can call. Let's just do it for fun. I wasn't planning on doing this, but let's see what happens. I'll put it on speakerphone.
Thank you for calling. To ensure the highest level of customer care, this call may be recorded. Please hold while we connect your call.
Let's see what happens. I don't know what's about to happen here, but we're just trying to see something. Who knows?
Window Rod, how can I help you?
Hey there, I was interested in getting some new windows.
So you need to get an estimate, sir?
Yeah, I'd like to get an estimate.
Okay. Sir, have you contacted us before?
Nope, just found you on my phone and called you.
Okay, give me a second. What is your last name, sir?
My last name is Harshaw, Harshaw. So what's going to happen here? Are they going to send somebody over to my house or what?
Yes, sir. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take down all your information. We're going to send an estimator over to your property to measure the windows and give you an estimate.
Okay, and how long do you think they'll get here?
It takes 4 to 6 weeks for the windows to get here.
No, for the guy to get here to give me the estimate.
It depends, sir, on what our schedule looks like, but I have to get your information first.
That means
I won't be able to get anybody out there today.
Well, that's okay. I just wanted it more like a day, more like a week, more like a month.
Well, it just depends where you located.
Okay. Hey, can you hang on a second? My something just came up. Let me call you right back.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Okay, I don't want to talk to them. Well, that's good. They answered the call. Now, let's keep that in mind as we go through this. I know that didn't sound like anything particularly interesting, but stick with me. Let's go through this, okay? Let's go to a Harvard Business Review study. They did they did a lead response survey studying over 25,000 leads across 4 different categories. So here's what they do. They I don't know if this is ethical or not. I guess to do research and to publish scholarly things, it's okay. They posed as leads, kind of like I was just doing there, with well, we'll see the data here in a minute. Something like 2,500 different companies, and they just wanted to see what would happen. And let's show you what happened. Okay. So here's the source. This is from 2007. So this may have been, updated or changed since then. But here's what we found. Response time from creation by 5-minute increments. Contacted leads that become contacted and qualified. Contacted in black, qualified in gray. So here's what I want you to take out of this. Contact rates significantly drop after 5 minutes. So let's take a look at this. In the first 5 minutes, the ability to get hold of somebody who becomes a lead. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about the lead that comes in over the phone. I'm talking about leads that come in from other sources, whether it's your website, maybe you're purchasing leads from somebody like Quinn Street or Service Magic or Cal Finder or whatnot. And let's just take a look at this interesting data. If you wait 5 minutes, the contact rate goes down precipitously. And if you wait 30 minutes, here's the interesting data that comes from the Harvard Business School study. 100 times decrease from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. 100 time decrease from 5 to 30 minutes. Qualification rate, 21 times decrease from 5 to 30 minutes. And you see there, as the minutes go to an hour and a half, the contact rate drops to jack squat. It's ridiculous. So here's what we want to glean out of this. Getting in touch with your leads fast is uber important. In fact, it's probably one of the most important things that you could focus on, because here's what happens. If a lead comes in, think about this. If I go back over here to my phone and I go back to these lead results and I click through to Window World, okay, they've got a little form here. It says, request your free in-home estimate. Now, I don't dare fill that form out because they're going to hound me for the rest of my life. But it says your name, zip code, phone number, email address, how did you hear about us, and comments. And if I had enough courage, I would fill it out. But I don't have the courage because I don't want them to hound me. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll see here on these statistics that I'm about to show you, they probably won't. But how fast do those come in? One of the things that people tell us when we create these websites is, oh, we need these forms. We need these forms. We want to get these forms so that people can fill them out. And that's good. But here's what happens. If you don't contact them back, certainly within 30 minutes, 5 minutes is the accepted threshold, then you're probably not going to make it happen. Okay? Let's take a look at this graph here. This is some different sources, different surveys that were done, different years, different number of companies. But here's what I want you to look at, the average response time. The average response time, 54 minutes, 44 minutes, 41 minutes, 49 minutes, 56 minutes. The average time was 44 minutes to respond to a lead. Now, let's go back one slide. If we go to the 40-minute range, the contact rate is down by over 100 times. There was no response from 35 to 63% of the companies. 43% on average did not respond at all. At all. For inquiries submitted on the web, 78% of the sales go to the first company to respond. The first company to respond. Now, there's different ramifications for this information. One of the ramifications is if you're engaged in purchasing leads from companies that sell leads, this becomes extremely important because they're going to be selling those leads on average to different customers, to multiple customers. But even if you're generating a lead yourself, okay, yourself, meaning it's a lead that comes from pay-per-click. So they filled out a form on your website. That lead didn't go to anybody else. But here's what's going to happen very likely. That customer, that prospective customer, is also going to be on other websites filling out other forms. And so now it becomes a race against time. And if you can be the first one to get a hold of them, you got a 78% chance of getting the sale. How do you like that ratio? I think this ratio right here should be framed and put on your forehead and looked at every morning in the mirror when you shave, or If you're a woman, maybe you're not shaving. But look at it. Now, this is just a information. I don't really know what to do with this slide, but I felt like I wanted to show this to you. This comes from a company called Leads 360. The value of leads received throughout the day. Now, this is across different industries, not just home improvement, but let's just take a look at this. Look at the value of these leads. Improvement in conversion ratio. So there's a baseline of 0%. So you see that a lead that comes in at 12 or 1 o'clock is at 1%, which means that they're about average. But as you get into these later leads, the value of leads received throughout the day, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 5 a.m., 49%, 82%, more valuable leads. Now, how would you explain that? And the way that I would explain that is very simple. These are people that, number one, are actually taking more time to research because they have more time at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, or 5 in the morning if that's when somebody chooses to get up. Also, they are more likely to be available to talk. Now, imagine this. If a guy becomes a lead at 9 o'clock and you were able to respond, you think, well, that's a little bit creepy. Well, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. Here's what I'm saying. Take this data and look at it. Look at the daytime, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. The value of the lead is significantly lower. If you look at this on a bell curve, if you go from 6 a.m. starting at negative 6% to 6 p.m., 12 hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., you range from negative 7 to positive 14. These are all called pretty much in the middle. We've got a negative 24. 9 a.m. is really bad. But once you get after hours, so I don't even actually really know what to tell you to do with this data other than to look at it and go, are you taking seriously these leads? Are you following up? Are you getting in contact? Is this something that you're putting any effort and energy into? Now, let's shift gears and talk about persistence, not just speed, but persistence. Average response time, we already talked about that earlier, but let's look at the data for average. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Rich. My screen has Rich Sirocco, thank you for that. I don't know what my problem is, but I wasn't showing you this data. Now, you're seeing this data. Average response attempts. Dreamforce 2009, Dreamforce 2008, these are different studies. Average response attempts, 1.07 responses. This is called how many times does somebody try to follow up the lead. If you're trying to follow up a lead 1.07 times, or in other words, one time, here's what you're going to do. You're going to lose. Let me show you why. People say, well, if they're not interested, they're not going to call back. If they don't call back, they must not be interested. I don't want to seem desperate. Let me tell you this little story from Lifetime Fitness, okay? And then I'm going to show you some statistics that are going to blow your brains out, okay? So Lifetime Fitness, here's what happened. I was driving home from work one time. This was before we went to a virtual office, so I don't actually go to work anymore. I'm just at work all the time. But when we had an office, I was driving home from work one time. This was about 2009, I think, and it was in the fall. And I got this idea that I wanted to join Lifetime Fitness. It's a gym. And the reason I wanted to join it was because in the fall, they have an indoor pool that my kids like to go play at. And it's got some big slides, and it's kind of fun. And they also have a play area for smaller children. And my kids are, my gosh, they're getting a little bit older now. But, 4 years ago, I had a 4-year-old and a I don't know, what were they then, 6 and 7. So they were a little bit smaller. So they have this play area, and I thought, we'll join the gym. So here's what I did. I stopped by on my way home, and I talked to a guy, and I said, look, we used to be a member here, and it was fun, and my kids liked it, and we worked out and played basketball and all these different things. But we quit, and the reason we quit is because it's a little bit too far from our house. It's about a 20-minute drive. Not terribly far, but also not terribly convenient. That's a 40 minutes of drive time in addition to when you're there. But I told the guy I'm interested in joining. I asked him how much it would cost. He said, look, you used to be a member. There's a founder's membership fee that you can pay because I joined it when it had first opened years ago. And it was something like $139 a month for my whole family, which I thought sounded very fair. And he said, do you want to sign up? And I said, well, you know what, I really don't want to sign up right now because I just got the idea when I was driving. Let me go home and talk to my wife. And he says, fine. So this was a Thursday. Friday afternoon, I get home from work, and my wife says, hey, this guy named Jason called from Lifetime Fitness about joining the gym. What's that all about? And I said, oh, well, you know what? Yesterday I was driving home, and I got this idea. I stopped in. He said it was $139. We could take the kids there. It's getting to be wintertime, you know, something to do. What do you think? And she goes, I don't know. It sounds like a pretty good idea. And then we immediately dropped the topic and didn't talk about it again. Now, that was Thursday. Then that was Friday. The next day, Saturday, I was in the car with my family, all of my kids, backing out literally out of the garage into my driveway to go to lunch. And the phone rings. It's my cell phone. And you know what happens when that phone rings and you see a local number but you don't recognize the actual phone number? You know what I'm talking about, right? So I was looking at it. I thought, I don't know if I want to answer this or not, but I answered it. I put the car, you know, I stopped the car and I said, I said, who is this? And the guy says, this is Jason from Lifetime Fitness. I talked to your wife yesterday. She said that you were still talking about joining the gym, and I just wanted to follow up and see what you're thinking. And I said, Jason, let me tell you something, man. You happen to have caught me right when I was backing out of my garage, and I'm taking my family to lunch. It's really not a good time to talk. Is there some time you could call me later? And he goes, yeah, sure, no problem. And he never called me back, ever. It's now 2013. It was 3-4 years ago. The guy never called back. Now, here's what happened. I stopped in on Thursday. He called me on Friday. He called me on Saturday. I told him I didn't want to talk to him. I told him it wasn't a good time, and he never called back. Would I have joined the gym? Would I have taken action? The answer is I don't really know. It's hard to say at this point. But here's what I know. He never followed up, and I just kind of forgot about it. You guys have heard me talk about the law of 9,433 before. The law of 9,433 states that everybody has approximately 9,433 things that they're thinking about. From small to large, from big things to little things, from how to get your kids to, you know, be good, responsible human beings to I need to order a new pen from Amazon because I lost a couple of them. You know, all these dumb little things in between. So you've got to take the time to follow up, okay? Let's take a look. 38% of reps will only try one call. 28% will try 2 times. 11% stick it out for 3 calls. This is where Jason lost me, right? He was in the, 66%. 11% will stick it out for 3 calls. 8% will try 4 times. 6% will dial 5 times. 4% will call their prospect 6 times. So here's what we see. People just quit trying, and this is what they do. They sit around and they wait for fresh leads. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie before or not. If you have, fantastic. If you haven't, I probably don't suggest that you watch this movie because it's about as foul-mouthed and filthy as you can imagine. But there's an interesting scene in there. It's a movie called Glengarry Glen Ross, and it's talking about this company that sells real estate, and Alec Baldwin is the boss, and he comes in from the corporate, and he's got these 3 salespeople in this little branch office, and there's this. It's not funny like slapstick comedy, but it's funny because he comes in there and he just rips these guys because they're not treating their leads with respect. And he has what he calls the Glengarry Glen Ross leads, and it's a stack of leads that's literally bundled up, and these guys want these leads, and he says, I'm not giving these leads to you losers. You guys suck. These leads are for closers, and you guys are not closers. And then he puts their sales contest on the board. First prize, El Dorado Cadillac. Second prize, a set of steak knives. Third prize, you're fired. And it's a little bit of intimidation, of motivation. But here's what I want you to take out of that goofy little story is this. This is very common. People are not following up their leads. I think we see this all the time, and the reason is because we got other things to do. And we'd rather just wait for another fresh lead to come in. But I'm telling you, there's money to be made in there. Chance of getting through, if you call 1 time, you got a 38% chance of getting through, and that's if you call fast. 2 calls, 61% chance. 3 calls, 73% chance. 4 calls, 5 calls, okay? You get up to 90% chance on the 5th call. Average 20 leads per week. If you make 1 to 2 attempts, 20% contact rate means you'll make 4 contacts. If you make 6 attempts, 60% contacts, that's 12 contacts. End result, 3 times as many as appointments without any more money spent on lead generation. This is just all about maximizing the leads that you already have, okay? So this is from insidersales.com, their internal study. Here's what they found. This it mirrors. This is the source of the data we just looked at. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Then you see you start getting up into the 95% if you call 12 times. And you say, well, gosh, why would I want to call that many times? And the answer is because that's where the sales actually start to come in. In overcoming intro objections, you can call quickly and you can call a lot, but what happens when you actually get prospects on the phone? Well, what happens when you walk into a store? You walk into a store, and what does the guy say? He says, can I help you? And what do you say back to him? You say, well, no, I'm just looking. And it's a stupid question. It's not the right question. If somebody walks into a store, what should you say? Let's say it's just a retail store and they sell clothing. Instead of saying, can I help you? Well, let's think of a more ingenious question that we could help them with. Maybe we could show them something specific. Maybe we could give them some kind of information that would help them make a better decision. Common mistakes. What do you say on voicemail? What do you say when somebody gives you an objection like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for an estimate? What should you say instead? Well, generally you're going to say something like, hey, this is John from XYZ Home Improvement. You called for an estimate. And then you'll give him his estimate, and, you know, it might be good and it might not be good. Well, what if we said something like, well, let me give you some ideas here. Let's see here. Oh, I'm just trying to look something up here real quick. Pardon me. Sorry, I can't find something. I got a little distracted there. So what could we say on the voicemail instead? What if we said something like this? Hey, John, this is Rich calling from XYZ Home Improvements, and I just want you to know that I've received a lead. It says that you're interested, and I just want you to know that I know you're busy, and if it's okay with you, I'm going to continue to call you back until I get a hold of you. If for some reason you decide not to buy or you don't want me to call, that's fine. If you'll just take my call and let me know, that's no problem. But I am going to continue to follow up. Now, here's what I've done. I've just given myself permission to continue to follow up. It's a real simple shift. And now when the guy finally answers, he's not going to be ticked off. He's not going to be upset. I'm just trying to help you to think a little bit outside the box. There's some things that you can say and do to make yourself more inviting, to have a better chance of having a real conversation and to get through to somebody, okay? Whoops. Let's do the math. If you have 20 leads per week, you have a 15% increase in appointment set rates. That's 3 extra appointments. 3 appointments. If you close 1 extra job per week at $6,500, let's say you sell windows, 52 weeks, $338,000 in sales. If you're a salesperson, how much does that mean? If you're a company owner, how much does that mean in revenue? It's a lot of money, okay? Old leads, sales leads contact rates, percentage of leads that never get contacted, 40 and 50%. Percentage of uncontacted leads that end up buying within 12 months, 40%. Now, this statistic changes from different websites. Replacement Contractor magazine says that 70% of people that don't buy immediately will buy at some point. You know, I don't really know. It says 80% within 24 months. I don't know what that real number is. Let's just assume that there's some percentage, and then we're going to get into a discussion of hopper systems. That's not really the discussion I want to have with you today in detail, but I just want to help you understand that there's a lot that can be gleaned out of these leads. You put a hopper system in place, you start sending them emails, you start sending them postcards, and we've done this before, and we could run the math on that to say, okay, if we spend, let's just run some quick numbers. If we've got 500 customers that fall into this category of uncontacted leads or people that haven't converted, and we know that a percentage of them are going to buy over the course of time, let's say that the percentage is just 20%, and we can capture a quarter of those by persistent follow-up. That's 5%. If we can capture 5% of the 500 leads, that's 25 sales. If we get 25 sales at the $6,500 level that we talked about, that's $162,500. If we allocated, let's say, 12% of that to advertising, That's $19,500. You see where I'm going with this? $19,500 divided by 500 prospects, that's how many we said there were to start with, is $39 per prospect. If I spend an average of 60 cents each postcard to get something out to these people, I could send them 65 postcards. That's one a week for over a year, not to mention email contacts. And the question then becomes, if I sent 500 people 65 consecutive postcards, not to mention emails consecutively over the course of a year plus, is it likely that out of the 20% that do end up buying, that I could get a quarter of them to come to me because I'm the one that's there wall drugging them, to use my own phraseology? And the answer is most certainly that's probably true, okay? And this is just doing some of the math. I just did some of the math, okay? How do you stack up? I want you to just think about this and consider a little bit. Real lead generation means speed and persistence, but it mostly means just doing it. The average company makes 1.5 call attempts, fail. The average company takes 44 hours to respond to leads, fail. I said 44 minutes earlier, didn't I? It's 44 hours. Sorry about that. There's a big difference. 55% of companies don't respond at all. It's a fail. 44 hours. Think about that for a minute. Here's what I want you to do. Do this. Do a couple of things. Number one, input on your own website a lead and see what happens. See what happens. Use a fake name and a fake phone number. Do whatever you have to, but see what happens. Test yourself. See what happens. This is something that would be very interesting. Number two, test some of your competitors. See how they stack up. And then you might start to realize why you're not doing as well. I'm going to give you a piece of advice that hopefully will stick with you. Here's my experience. Companies that are larger, more well capitalized, and have better systems tend to excel at this better than smaller companies that are flying around by the seat of their pants. Okay, good, whatever. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. If you're a smaller company that's currently flying around on the seat of your pants, I want you to address this issue. Did you realize that if you're in the home improvement industry, and you probably are because you're on this webinar, did you realize that you can take a lead from a company like CalFinder, or you can take a lead from your website, you can have it automatically integrate into a program like MarketSharp. Do you know this? So the lead automatically comes into MarketSharp. So emails are automatically, without any human interaction, sent to that lead, so that those leads are automatically notified to people in your office, on your staff, via cell phone, via computer, via iPad, whatever you want, that says here's a lead, so that you can instantly follow up. So you don't have to be at the mercy of sort of the old pencil and paper, hopefully something will happen type of a routine. You can use technology to help speed this up. You can put routines of calling and following up and tickler files automated within these programs, so that you've got at least the knowledge that you need to follow up, if not the bandwidth and the personnel to actually do it. So what I want you to do is I just want you to take these topics and think about them and let it seal in your brain a little bit and say, hey, what's going on here in my company? Is there room for improvement? Is there something you could be doing better? And the answer almost certainly is yes. So let me wrap this up with these couple of little points for you here. I want to make sure I capture my thoughts. Here's some of the easiest ways. This is what I'm going to call, I'm making this up right now, but I want you to hear it. The easiest ways to improve sales, okay? Easiest ways to improve sales. Number one, and this is not in any particular order. These are things that are all kind of equally important, and you look at this in your own business. Number one, fix your website. You say, well, what are you talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is having a website that actually works from a conversionability standpoint, social proof, identity, and that's something that the majority of you are already working with us on, if not already completed. So that's number one. Number two, fix your SEO so that people are actually finding you on the internet. Number three, fix your lead handling protocol, okay? What we've been talking about today. Number four, use pre-positioning, okay? That's a whole different topic for a different time, but you probably heard me talk about it. These four things right here are going to allow you to massively improve the efficiency of what's already passing through your website, through your lead handling processes. Fix your website, fix your SEO, fix your lead handling, use pre-positioning. This is the easiest way to improve your business. Number 5, let's just add this on here, is use hopper systems, following up, okay? Leads that didn't convert, etc. I've told the story before on these webinars about a real estate company. I had a scenario with my own home where I put it on the market for about 6 months. We were thinking about moving out of state. In the middle of that 6 months, we decided, you know, we really just want to stay, and we decided not to move. So after 6 months, I took my house off the market. It didn't relist, just took it completely off the market. Well, I didn't know this at the time, but here's what happens. If your listing on your house goes inactive, then 4 million realtors will contact you to try to get you to relist it. I didn't know that. I found that out the hard way, though, and the hard way was I received somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 phone calls, and I received somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 100 pieces of mail within about 2 to 3 weeks. And I kept it all because I was fascinated from a marketing standpoint that all these companies would reach out to me, all of these different realtors trying to get me to list my house. Well, as I started sorting through the mail, I noticed that there were a couple of companies that hit me hardest with mail. Now, some companies sent a big package that was kind of fancy, and a lot of companies tried to handwrite it so it looked personal, and the majority of them sent sort of a form letter type thingy, and it looked very unimpressive. But there was a couple, 2 in particular, that sent me a series of postcards, 6 by 11 postcards, the oversized kind that I tend to like. And I didn't realize at the time because I really wasn't paying attention to the individual pieces as they came in because I really wasn't interested in relisting my house. But from a marketing standpoint, as curiosity, I just kept them all. And then later on, I sorted through them, and I found that these 2 companies, one had sent me approximately 8 postcards, and the other had sent me, I think, 9 postcards. And I looked at them, and they were one of the sets of postcards was kind of goofy and cheesy and had puns on it and clip art and goofy stuff like that. The other one had a very hard-hitting message that said something to the effect of, we'll sell your house within 39 days or we'll buy it. And it kept coming over and over again. I finally called that guy and I said, hey, I'm a marketing guy. I'm curious. How does this work? And he said, we relist 25% of all the houses that we attempt, that we put on our list. So when the listing expires, he says, that's when we put them on our list. He says, we relist about 25%. And I thought, this is amazing because surely there's a certain percentage of those people, like myself, that don't even relist at all with anybody. We're not going to sell our house anymore. We decided not to. But he said, out of all the people, he gets about 25%. And I said, how many phone calls do you make? You know what the answer was? None. He says, we don't call them. We just keep pounding them in the mail. There's no emails. There's no phone calls. Now, there's a little bit of a disconnect there. So did I just tell you to follow up promptly, or did I tell you to not call at all? Well, it's a little bit different scenario here with the house relisting. I never became a lead, so to speak. I never proactively inquired. They just started proactively sending me stuff when my listing expired. So that 1 to 5 minute thing versus the 30-minute thing really never came into play because there was never a moment when I was a lead. But this persistence of hitting me over and over again with this hopper system, it really does have an effect. Now, it didn't affect me because I wasn't in the market, but the point is 25%, extraordinarily impressive. And this is what's available. So let's just review those 5 things. I just, like I said, sort of made this list up. Fix your website, fix your SEO, fix your lead handling, use pre-positioning, use hopper systems, and here's what's going to happen. Big things. Big things are going to happen. So that's our webinar for today. Sorry about the technical snafu. Some of those slides you didn't get to see, but, you know, we talked it through, and I think you still got the gist of it. So thanks for participating, and we'll be back in about 40 minutes. We're going to have our Insiders Open Forum. We've got several things that have been submitted today, and we're going to have a wide variety of topics. So it's going to be a good opportunity for you to call in and listen to some different kinds of situations, and we'll talk through them with those MYM Insiders. So we look forward to talking to you then. Right now, we're going to wrap this up, and we'll talk to you shortly. Thanks. See ya. Bye now.